Hey everybody, it's Waterman. Before we get to the episode, we just wanted to take a moment to let you know about the Mosaic Learning Architect Academy, hosted by Izzy and Nicole. I'll let Nicole give you all the details, then we'll jump right into the episode.
Hey there, teachers. Take your teaching practice to the next level with the Mosaic Learning Architect Academy. Our 4-day in-person learning experience is designed to help you create engaging, student-centered lessons that are aligned with the latest research and best practices. With Mosaic instructional planning, you'll receive support for each day's activities and long-term planning success. Our system is designed to help you create lessons that are not only effective, but also fun and engaging for your students. We believe that learning should be experiential and hands-on. That's why our academy is designed to be interactive, with plenty of opportunities for you to try out new teaching strategies and techniques. But the real magic of the Mosaic Learning Architect Academy is the community you'll join. You'll be part of a network of passionate educators from all over the world, sharing ideas, collaborating on projects, and building relationships that will last long after the academy ends. And when you complete the academy, you'll earn certification as a Mosaic Learning Architect, demonstrating your mastery of the latest teaching strategies and techniques. Join us today. Register at the link in our bio.
Welcome to the Only Brother Sister podcast, built for teachers, by teachers, dumplings over flowers.
I'm the sister, Nicole.
And I'm the brother, Izzy.
And this podcast is here to take you on a backstage tour of our combined 50 years of experience teaching so that we can help you recognize and celebrate substance over appearance.
Or dumplings over
flowers.
Yeah. Well, Waterman, spin the wheel.
Hey, happy summer.
Happy summer and greetings from Dallas, Texas.
Why do we do that? Greetings from New York. What? Long Island, New York, fun. Summer Central.
I always like the idea that that matters for some reason. I don't know.
I love it. Okay, fine. Hi from Long Island, sunny Long Island.
Yeah,
Greetings. I picture the postcard every time you do that. Greetings from Dallas. And it's like the letters,
That's awesomeness. All right. I guess we got to get to it, huh? Waterman, spin the wheel.
The Precarious Commute.
Speaking of summer fun.
Yeah, jeez.
Actually,
dragged it down, Waterman.
Listen, I've been obsessed with the Long Island serial killer lately because they just caught.
Yeah, that's right.
Or the alleged serial killer. Stepping over dead bodies at the beach on Long Island seems to be not so far off, right?
Too soon? Geez.
Not soon enough.
I guess. Well, not caught soon enough. A crazy story, right?
Yeah, Gilgo Beach and Rex Heuermann, and they just finished searching his house. We don't know what's in there yet, but we did find 270-something guns.
Oh, so that's a part of it. Not much else to fit in the house when you have an armory.
True,
Your precious armory. So, wow, that is craziness. And since the wheel of randomness has chosen and spoken, I guess we get into that story, which kind of connects to, I know school's about to start out here in the great state of Texas, August 9th. Can you imagine?
No.
August 9th. Crazy. So
we just lost half of our audience, making them think about going back to school so quickly.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
They'll be okay. They'll be back. So in that regard, the story goes, I was working with a first year teacher in the South Bronx, and amongst all the things, and this is a high capacity individual, and it was just an incredible experience for us, for me at that time, but I know that you and I have talked about this a great deal, at how the commitment and the dedication to the craft and the art. And if you have listened in the last couple of episodes, that was kind of, it seemed to become the theme right? We're not laborers. We're craftsmen.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
teacher is a type of person that really does put their all in. And I don't think we need to make apologies for that. I think we need to highlight it and show it and showcase it. But then you get to the extra curricular stuff like this story, which is actually a very short one, because she walked into
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
in
whoa. Set the stage about her, though. I mean, so this is a
okay, true.
person. Yeah, go ahead. You do it. It's your
No,
girl,
it's
your
all right. This
story,
is
the whole thing.
this is a person. Um, let's call her Kelsey. So because that's her name,
Okay.
and so that works. So this is a teacher from the Michigan area who was working in the New York area as just a fellow who came through programs to get her into the school. I don't know where you wanted me to go with that.
I do want
Sorry.
you to go with the fact that she was so, we always, when we go to work in New York City, in these areas that are really tough,
Yeah.
um, really urban, and we see such a densely populated, like tough neighborhood area. And then you see like these little pockets of teachers who come from all over the country to try to air quotes
Right.
help, in New York City.
Yeah,
Um,
and with great intention, and they are
with
helping,
great
and it
intention,
is
but you
yeah.
look around, it's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I think somebody said to you one time on the street, "Oh,
Mhm.
what are you doing in this neighborhood? White guy in a tie with a backpack? You're either a teacher or a lawyer. You must be a teacher, right?" Like,
Yeah.
it's just it's very, very obvious that, let's say, Kelsey didn't grow up in the South Bronx, right? You can look at
There you
her and
go.
go, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing here? And why are you doing this?"
Mhm,
Which is
mhm,
like, it also speaks to like the nobility of the profession and, like how so many people around the country really is what I'm seeing, um, apply to programs that relocate them to
mhm.
urban areas of high need, and they go, "Okay, I'm going to make a difference here." And that leads, of course, to our issue of teacher turnover because, you
Yeah.
picture and think about New York City, as a kid growing up in Michigan. What do you picture? Manhattan. You don't picture
Right.
the South
Glitz,
Bronx. You
glamour,
don't
no.
picture Brownsville, Brooklyn, East New York. You don't picture the boroughs in general, right?
Right.
Even the students that go to school in Brooklyn, how many miles is Brooklyn from Manhattan?
3,
Maybe,
depending on where you
yeah.
are,
Yeah.
maybe 2
Um,
1 subway stop.
and yeah, one $2.75 MetroCard subway stop away. And
Mhm.
so many students we've talked to say like, "Oh, let's think about New York City and some landmarks and how would you make a tourist guide for people? Oh, that's an authentic assignment." And they're like, "I've never been to Manhattan. What are you talking about? I've never
Right.
seen the Empire State Building." It's just so, so yeah, that's what I was getting at to set the scene about Kelsey and where she's coming from and her context and her culture. And
Mhm.
then that culture of the South Bronx. I do,
Yeah.
I love to get all researchy on podcasts. So I'm gonna.
Mhm. Go ahead, let's hear
Um,
it.
we're talking about the contact zone right now, which is a concept that was introduced in the world of anthropology. So,
Mm.
I want to say Mary Louise Pratt. It's been a while, but first
Okay.
developed that idea of the contact zones where cultures are you're kind of like immersing yourself in a culture to notice and observe the clash of two cultures. The contact zone is where two cultures come together and clash. And when you think about like looking at that from a purposeful place, um,
Mhm.
that's called, and you're studying culture in that way, whatever, you're doing an ethnography. A lot of my work has been about autoethnography, where you're like writing an autobiography ish, right? You can think about that. You're
Okay.
looking at yourself and thinking and reflecting about yourself in the middle of a contact zone. where two cultures are
Mm.
grappling with each other, hopefully in productive ways. And you notice kind of like the change in yourself because of that, right? And by cultures, we could mean like digital natives and digital immigrants,
Okay.
young people, old people, black people, white
Mhm,
people, whatever,
mhm.
whatever the definition. But this particular situation, it helps for me to contextualize it and think about it and picture it even in terms of like we are in a contact zone. Kelsey was a young, very well educated,
Mhm.
brilliant white woman living in New York City, commuting to South Bronx, New York, where we're talking about black and brown people with not a lot of education, um, tough scene, tough streets, lots of
Yeah.
violence constantly, poverty, and
Yep.
really tough situations. So,
Which
that is the scene. That's the contact zone
there
that
you go.
Kelsey was in.
Wow, I
Couldn't
thought this
get
was a
more.
short story.
We're like, I don't know what you're getting at. I'm getting at that. We need to
No,
know,
yeah, no, I didn't know how you wanted to get at that, and now I do. Um, Short story longer. We get into the building one morning, and she comes into our morning meeting, as per usual. When we would meet, kind of a mentorship situation, and she comes in, puts her stuff down, and says, "Well, I just stepped over a dead body and had to walk out and kind of refresh herself and kind of gather her thoughts and bring them back. And so, in that interim of time between bathroom and gather and come back, anything that I was about to talk about, and maybe had a plan. I can't remember necessarily what we were going to be engaging in, or maybe it was an observation from the day before or whatever. I had to really filter that my thinking a little differently now, and it was it that is not and should never be anyone's norm. And so to kind of had to get off the train, come down the steps, and in order to get to work, you have to step past, over, or through
or
dead
in
people.
the vicinity
That's
of, or think
Yeah,
about,
that's a
or
tough one. That's a tough one.
super tough one.
Um, yeah. So
What else did she say about it? Like, what did you do when she said that?
it's more a matter of, well, my head immediately did go to, like the ideas of commitment. Is this what you were bargaining for? Is this something that, how do you factor that in to your thinking when you're going to take a job like that? I'm not very, I mean, I don't know who is, but I'm not a real fan of disappointment. I have a very, very difficult time.
Oh, I'm a huge
Um,
fan of disappointment.
yeah, no. Well, no, even in my joking, like I think of my own kids, I don't like to pull the rug out from under them, or not let their expectations be met, even, or even in a joking way, let's say. And so I kind of equate those two things together somehow. It just pains me to see somebody's expectations get trampled on, in such a way that is totally out of their control, because there's no coaching that. There's no, then there's no way to really reel that in. And so that's where my thoughts went, and would still go. And it's like, well, how does that, impact and affect your daily practice? Um, is that something that's going to, be a mental struggle? What kind of PTSD might you have over something like that? I mean, that's real.
Well,
And
yeah,
how
and
does
it's
that
like on top of
impact
the
the
day to
message?
I'm sorry.
You
On
know,
top
no.
of the day to day, just, like grind to being a teacher. Like that is not
Right.
an easy thing. And I can only imagine, in the middle of this community trying to relate to her students and trying to, there's all kinds of
Yep.
factors. But then, I'm thinking about the team maybe you were meeting with that morning too. Like, I know maybe one of those team members later
Mhm.
in the year or a different year, I don't know, sent an email with the subject, be careful. man with knife
Right.
on subway
Mhm.
platform, like some guys just stabbing everyone. So just
Yeah,
be careful on your way in. Um, so at that
that's right.
point, what do we think about? And I want to again think about the idea of those contact zones, Mary Louise Pratt, which I think
Mhm.
really is the correct person.
Waterman, fact check that for us, please.
Mary Louise
Um,
Pratt, ethnography, contact zones. Cultures
yeah,
grapple with each other and clash. So, what do you do, I guess, if you find yourself in that situation, is what I'm thinking about. That maybe you're one of
right.
those teachers who said, oh, you know what? Even if it's not that extreme, like, oh, I'm going to go to New York City and like everyone's
Yeah,
picturing, Home
Times
Alone,
Square
Home
and
Alone, Home
yeah,
Alone.
okay, all
Sorry,
right,
that was
right.
my
Running around
Kevin
the Plaza
McAllister thing.
Hotel, tough
Yeah,
gig.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. Like, "Oh, this is gonna be amazing," and then
yeah.
it's not amazing, and you have these really real problems and just lifestyle
Well, does it
conflict.
have to be that extreme to be yeah, an unfulfilled and unmet expectation? Um,
Absolutely
that
not. It's also,
right,
maybe the expectation was even more extreme than the reality, right? Like, maybe you're
right.
super prepared for that, but I think what really matters in that moment is the idea of reflection and
Mhm.
self-reflecting and thinking about how to, you know, again, grapple two cultures clashing so that you can grapple with those ideas in
Yeah.
yourself. And
Which
how can we make that
and
grappling productive?
yes, a yes and to that is to say that, I don't I'm not, patting my own back here, but I'm saying that I do know that it was very important at that moment for her to have somebody else to talk to and to mentor her through that
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
situation.
yeah.
And so that's a number one for teachers that might be listening and thinking, well, I didn't step over a dead body, but at the same time, I'm dealing with this, and this, in my home life, my relationships, and I'm carrying that in. Do not teach in isolation, regardless of the fact that when you close the door, it's you and the kids. You need to make sure that you have a network, whether it be virtually, even through us, people that you work with at your school. Maybe you've been assigned a mentor, or you are one. Just think about the ways in which isolation can really wreak havoc on you and others, and make sure that that's a goal of yours to either find a trusted mentor or to be one, depending on where you are in
Or to
your
be one,
in
and
your
if you can't, or if you want to gather before that, be that for
Mhm.
yourself. Because what is reflection
Yeah,
if not, like, how could you know what you're reflecting against unless you have the vision that you started out with? So the expectation
sure.
versus the reality, right? So, that is a really great way to either prepare for that mentorship moment or just to get your
Mhm.
your own opinion settled or um
Yep.
and then
Yeah,
can
so
I just take that to the next level?
oh, yes,
Because that's
please.
part of fourth space reflection, which
Mm.
is my scholarship and kind of work, academic work.
Yep.
And you can read all about that. I don't know if you come to my house and read my dissertation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where can we do that?
No, you
Um,
can read all about that really in a library at a college or something. I don't know. Where do you find dissertations?
I
They're
I
books.
I don't know. I have never
Anyway,
looked.
you could hear about it right now because I'm going to tell you about it. But
There you
also,
go.
the idea is that when you are making an impact in others' lives, whether that's as a teacher or just, as a person, right? That you're really intentionally reflecting on that impact and thinking about
Mm,
what you're doing that inspires action in someone else. And that action could be positive, negative, whatever. So, like, next
right.
level of that is like, of course, find someone to talk this through with. Of course, think about, what just happened. I stepped over a dead body. What must my students'
Mhm.
lives be like? How does this change what I do? How
Right.
does this change even the way I walk around this neighborhood? And how does that change how students see me? Whatever it is. Um,
Mhm.
and it's a lot, so many different areas you can go to. But the most productive thing, and I think maybe the most sacrificial, wonderful, higher calling kind of thing you could do with something like that is to do
Mhm.
it in front of someone else. And
Hmm.
in this case, as a
Openly,
teacher,
right.
openly, yeah. And in
Yeah.
this case, maybe in front of kids. So I
Yeah,
know
maybe,
Kelsey
and
was
of course, the content yeah, the content and the fear, depending on the age level and so on, so let's be very thoughtful
100%.
about that.
I'm definitely talking about next level stuff here. And like,
Yeah.
so as maybe an educator of educators, right? Like I would want to
Mhm.
share that reflection with someone else. Or
Right.
maybe I reflect about it and think about what happened and how it's affecting my professional life. And that's really what fourth space reflection is. You're reflecting on an event kind of publicly. There's a matrix
Mhm.
involved. In fact, you can read about it, and we will
Mm.
actually put links. I will Waterman, I will hook it up. Um,
Yeah. I like that you mathified it by saying a matrix. That's good.
I know
That's
it's
good
kind of
stuff.
weird. It's kind of
Go
weird.
on.
I did mathify it. Give me double lasers. Um, I need a new shirt. Mine doesn't say mathify it. Yours does. Mine
Yeah.
says, I'll show you. Oh,
It it
Waterman, spin
shouldn't,
that wheel.
right?
No, it
Nice.
shouldn't, but maybe now it should because I have a matrix of reflection to think about here where
Alright.
we take an event and we are reflecting on it publicly for like our own good and the good of others. And you're
Mhm.
thinking about how this event, what happened in this event that's going to affect your identity development as a person, as an educator. Um, there's a separate kind of column in that matrix for thinking through how you're grappling in a contact zone with other cultures and what that means on your own life and future and whatever.
Right.
Um, how this affects social emotional development and whether or not you reached an engaged critical pedagogy.
Mm.
So, critical pedagogy, right, is the concept of combining practice and theory together in action or
Sure.
practice as set out by Paulo Freire, depending on how you pronounce his name. That's how I do. Engaged critical pedagogy is when you do that with someone else and kind of like for the purpose of furthering that mission and being like
Right.
democratic and like, all that good stuff. That's a bell hooks concept.
Okay, a lot of name dropping today, huh?
Combining all of that together with the steps of reflection that you take in this matrix, right? Because we have a horizontal and then a vertical like continuum. So the
Yep.
horizontal is like all these different areas we think about, and then the vertical is Bloom's taxonomy levels of thinking. So combining all that
Mhm.
together is a Nicole Galanti concept, copyrighted,
Whoa.
called fourth space reflection. And then what you do with that is you go through and say, okay, so this happened. I stepped over a dead body on my way to work. How
Right.
does this affect, first of all, what do I remember about this event at our lowest level
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
order of thinking, right? Wow, I remember that I was panicked. I remember that, whatever it is. And then we go to understanding. What do I understand about this event from my own identity, from my identity as a teacher, from how this is going to affect my work, from what this
Right.
means about my culture grappling with another. And then we go all the way up through the level of Bloom's to our, apply, analyze, evaluate, make a judgment about this. What does this potentially say about me, about my place in the world,
Mhm.
about my
Mhm.
profession, about how I'm developing socially and emotionally, right? How I'm dealing with this. And then to creation, which is the highest Bloom's level of thinking.
Right.
So, what was now created because of this event? Like, did this create a moment for me to share with my
Sure.
students? Did this, my colleagues, like whatever it is? So then in the matrix, I've added um, another level of higher order
I
action, I
think,
guess, or
yeah,
thinking.
right, right,
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
So that we go from, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, creating.
Creating. Mhm.
And then I've added inspiration,
Yeah.
inspiring. So, what
Yeah, I love that.
about this action is going to inspire action from someone else?
What about how about could it be what about your reaction is going to inspire action
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah.
well?
So what about this reflection and like sharing it and making
Okay.
it public, honestly, is going to
Mhm.
inspire action from someone else. So you kind of get a sense of ownership over that event, especially if it's a negative, traumatic one. This isn't
Yeah.
just to reflect over like horrible things that have happened, but it could also be about mundane, teaching decisions that you make
Right.
or
Right.
great things that
So
happen. But how
yeah,
is
no.
sharing this reflection in this way going to inspire action in someone else? Which is a really
Absolutely.
useful and valuable exercise to do, obviously, and especially if you're a teacher.
Yes. Which is where I want to go, if that's okay.
Go.
Because the last episode in particular, we went off wheel and we were talking about planning decisions and how to filter decisions through a methodology. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in our workshops is that strategies and techniques and critical pedagogy and so on don't fail because of the strategy, right? So reflection is required to be a craftsman, to be an artist, to think about what you would have done differently, to add to your practice. And if that ever stops, we've stopped being a teacher,
Yes.
in our opinion, right? So I want to
Yes.
keep hammering
Ooh,
home
I
this
love that
idea of,
connection, and I love how this
yeah,
is all, like, gelling together with what we've been talking about together over the last couple weeks.
right. And so as you're preparing for, you know, looking ahead to the start of school, right? We mentioned that early, and a new experience. You can't account for everything
Right.
except when it happens. And
Right.
then when it happens, you have to reflect on it and build and use it. And that's really part of that growth mindset piece. Where now I think about my planning, and if you're out there and you're teaching and you're in July and it's getting close to August, and we haven't thought about not just what the first few days of school are going to look like and so on, but how you're going to deliver content in new and varied and unique ways, and
Yeah.
ways to enter kids in the conversation differently, and practices to include and add to your teaching tool belt. Then I'm going to push back and say I'm not sure we're really teaching, right? This is I'm going to go good cop bad cop here, and just
Dun,
say that,
dun, dun.
we we had a we had a principal who was talking to us about their contract negotiations. And you know what? I'm not scared. I'm not scared to step on some toes here with this comment and statement, and neither was she. Because what she was thinking about was the fact that, trying to quantify how much time is spent in planning and things
Sorry,
like this.
not her own contract negotiation, right?
Oh, correct. Yeah, the teachers were contracting against, time versus activity and task, and how many hours of on time and how many, planning hours and 45-minute breaks
Right.
and so on, which is totally necessary. I am a huge proponent of work-life balance. I mean, all the stuff, right? There's no question that you have to look out for, and hopefully have someone looking out for your own best interests in all of this. So let's preface all of what I'm going to say next with that. However, the comment was made that, the first 95% of your salary, that the expectation from administration is that what you're doing with that money, if you will, and what you're doing with your time is you're planning instructional experiences. It's not
Yeah.
that becomes the last and the last piece and we're working out all the other details, the delivery piece and so on. It's that the goal and the art of teaching is wrapped up in the amount of planning and preparation that is done. That's what you're getting paid for, is what her comment was. You're getting paid to prepare instructional experiences for kids, right? So if you look at it that way, and you think about how to better those instructional experiences, if reflection is not a part of that, then you're not doing it.
Yep.
And the risk taking piece comes in when you can better reflect and think back, and that's why it's so important to archive, if you will. I was one who threw all my plans away every year. I did not ever, and I mean this, and I'm not, and I didn't do it on purpose, like in my own head, like I was trying to think about a day 30 years later that I'd be on a podcast and I could say this. It was just my
That
nature
would have been
that I never,
amazing
that
if you
right?
did.
That would have talk about, fourth space. That's
That would have
outer
been,
space right there.
12th space if you did that.
Yeah. I particularly since this didn't exist when I started teaching. So that's amazing. I
Never
invented
thought
the
I'd be
podcast.
yelling on
Am
a
I?
stage at the carnival about.
You never know. No, no. Let's try to bring it into the century at least. But anyway, but point is this. Um, I was just never satisfied with what I had done last, and always wanted to try to think about something more. That doesn't mean that that's how you have to be. It's just the idea is that when we're talking about the art and craft of teaching, it's that if we ever think we've gotten there, then I think we stop.
Yeah,
That's that.
I'll agree,
It's
and
kind of
I did not throw out my plans every year. I had beautiful binders that I probably still have somewhere of all my lessons and all my worksheets and sheet protectors
that's
and color
funny.
coded and just bring this to the copy
Yeah,
room. It's fine. I was planned. And then every week I would be like, "Oh, that was cool, but I'm gonna do this new thing." And then I would just
right.
kind of have those like safety net plans. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
had
yeah, yeah.
everything, I had it
Absolutely.
all there, and
Yep.
it started because somebody showed me to do that. Told me to do that, showed me theirs, gave me their, like passed down
Yep.
a binder, like, "Oh, I'm giving you a binder." And I just thought like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this must be the
Holy
better
grail.
way because like it's the big book of Macbeth or whatever." And
Sure.
it's really hard, but then when you think about if you shift the focus to summarize
Mhm.
here to your own identity development,
Right.
and if you see that identity developing in relation to how you affect or your effect on the world around you and others,
Mhm.
then you're going to have to do some thinking about that world around you. You're going to have to
Yeah.
assess whether or not you're in a world where you're stepping over dead bodies on the way to work. And those
Yeah.
plans are always going to have to change. So
100%. It's not called
it feeds each other.
culturally static and sustaining education. It's culturally responsive and sustaining education. We're constantly needing to think about the ways in which we adapt practice of our own habit and our own practice so we can inspire that thinking in students because
Yes.
one of the most important pieces and one of the things we rest on all the time is that teaching should look like learning with and in front of students. So until next time,
Don't
happy
act
planning.
surprised, you guys. I wrote those words.
Oh gosh, yes, I stole them and she wrote them.
I just
And
stole
you can
my
click.
thing from Hamilton, so don't worry about it.
There you go. Click the link in the bottom, and you can see in our episode, and so you can see those words written out in 12-point Arial font. All right. This was really cool. I love your research-based name dropping, honestly, and that's very true. I'm always, by
Can
the
I tell
way,
you something?
super
So
impressed
do
with
I.
that. Yeah, no,
I'm impressed
I'm
with
impressed.
myself. I walk around like you. We
Okay.
just spent 2 hours recording one line of a commercial and that I
Yeah.
couldn't remember, and I'm like, "I think it's this researcher."
Yeah, no, you brought it out. You did good. But great job. Everyone, until next time,
Yeah.
happy planning.
Happy planning.
Hey everybody, this is the unseen but ever-present Waterman. Thank you for listening to Dumplings Over Flowers. Our current plan is to have new episodes every other week, so be sure to subscribe to the show on YouTube or follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube or on social by searching Dumplings Over Flowers or @DumplingsPod. That's @DumplingsPod. Also, don't be afraid to leave a comment on our YouTube channel. Your comments, questions, or stories may very well inspire the conversation in our next episode. If you would like to know more about our cloud-based lesson planning platform, you can visit mosaicip.com. And if you're interested in signing up for the Mosaic Learning Architect Academy, you can get more information and register online at mosaicip.com/MLA. That's mosaicip.com/MLA. Once again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.